this realm of the unseen, where there exists a hierarchy of spiritual forces, ancient entities that influence the world in ways most people never realize. The Bible speaks of them as powers and principalities, which refers to more than just earthly rulers. There are supernatural forces, the architects of deception, operating behind the veil. They manipulate governments, shape ideologies. They fuel the conflicts that have plagued civilizations for thousands of years. Now, some believe these entities are fallen angels. Some see them as interdimensional beings who want to control the material world. But it's their influence that stretches across history. It's in those secret societies, those occult traditions, some of the things that make up the very foundations of our society. The chaos we see in the world isn't random. It's orchestrated. These principalities are the real puppet masters behind war, corruption, and suppression of truth. When we start to recognize their influence, we begin to see patterns, recurring cycles of deception and control. And if we better understand the nature of these forces, then that is the first step in breaking free. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave.
Why is the world divided like this? It is not by accident. All of this is by very meticulously planned action. It is all done by design through the control systems that run our world. All you got to do at all times is follow the money. You'll get to the top and discover the Rothschild banking empire.
With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
And their cronies, the banking families, and what is often referred to as the royal political elite. These families that control the world did not suddenly come into power in the last 100 years. We're talking about thousands of years of royal bloodline control of the world.
Hello. My name is Montague William III. And what I will tell you may well sound absurd, but the less who believe it, the better for me. For you see, I'm in banking and big industry. For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. family secrets from father to son, inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives, whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing, a mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. For real power resides in the hands of a few. You voted for parties. What more could you do? But what you don't know is they're one and the same. Old Gordon has passed good old David the reins, and you'll follow the leader who was put there by you. But your blood, it runs red, while our blood runs blue. But you simply don't see it's all part of the game. Another distraction, like money and fame. Get ready for wars in the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world. You'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tow. Depopulation of peasants was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
This is The Economist magazine, owned by the Rothschild and Agnelli banking family. The cover is from 2019. In it, tattoos with a DNA symbol can be seen, a mobile phone with a QR code, facial recognition symbols, stalks with children marked with a barcode. One of the four horsemen of the apocalypse is masked.
The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years? For you to convince me the supernatural is not real? The obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces, actually. And the last couple of years have been like, holy shit, they're the only people who know what's going on. So that's the conclusion I've reached. I'm usually pretty curious. I've stopped being curious about this because I don't want to know anymore.
Of us against all of you. Well, if that's the case, your side's not doing too well.
Do you really believe that?
We've never been freer. Literacy is at an all-time high. We're working to eliminate racism, intolerance, gender inequality. People can love who they want. be who they want, do what they want. Diversity is no longer a dream. Hate speech is no longer tolerated. And politically, we're reclaiming the moral high ground.
I think I love you. Literacy, James. James, the average high school graduate reads at a 6th grade level. You have basketball players making $30 million a year decrying racism, all while wearing sneakers made from slave labor. Now, here's something for you. Right now, your world currently has 40 million slaves, more than the Romans had at the height of their empire. Bottom line is you're done. And we did it all right to your face, and now there's evil everywhere. And no one even cares. Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media, we desensitized you, redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face. You can't even feel it when you're doing it.
Good evening, godless sodomites. Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I'm very honored to be able to receive this amazing award from the depths of my soul.
I'm bringing the truth, John. We're in Hollywood, the belly of the beast.
On behalf of Amy, I'd like to thank the devil.
I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus.
Kneel before your God, Babylon!
Suck it, Jesus! This award is my God now!
That was Satanism. It's working. We made a pact. The movie came out, so...
That's when I really saw how dark and so it was dark. I get creeped out. I get scared to death. And I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be. It was soulless. Yeah. Never seen anything. And I still, every time I get out there, I feel like, oh man, I don't feel life out there. Yeah. I don't feel it at all. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track.
There is a reason why you see people dressed up as Satan. Full-on visuals of Satan, people dressed as Satan, dressed as a demon, got upside-down crosses all on their clothes or pentagrams on their clothes. People think that this stuff is just a game. No, there's a reason why the entertainment industry is doing that, y'all.
Why do we increasingly hear acknowledgments to Satan during award ceremonies? What compelled John Cena to appear naked at the Oscars, sparking widespread speculation across the internet about this being part of an Illuminati humiliation ritual? How has Cat Williams' commentary on such matters proven eerily accurate? And why are demonic symbols becoming more prevalent across music videos and movies? This surge in overt gestures, symbols, lyrics, subliminal messages, and secret codes weaving through our entertainment isn't coincidental. It represents a deliberate move to normalize, even glorify, elements that once lurked in the shadows of our collective consciousness. These symbols, often brushed aside as mere artistic expression or the eccentricities of fame, carry deeper meanings that resonate with ancient rituals and esoteric beliefs. The question arises, why? Why this push towards integrating such imagery and themes into mainstream media? Is it a reflection of a shift in societal values? Or perhaps an influence wielded by hidden forces with agendas that extend beyond mere entertainment? The presence of these symbols and rituals, increasingly embedded within the fabric of popular culture, invites a closer examination of the messages being propagated to millions, often subconsciously. The acknowledgement of darker forces, the peculiar rituals played out in public view, and the infiltration of esoteric symbolism in entertainment might well be a mirror reflecting a broader cultural and spiritual battle. This phenomenon beckons us to question the intentions behind these displays and the impact they have on the audience's psyche and society's moral compass. As we stand witness to this growing trend, it becomes crucial to discern the nature of the entertainment we consume and to understand the implications of the messages being delivered. The infiltration of such imagery into popular media is not just a matter of artistic freedom, but speaks to a larger narrative at play, challenging us to look beyond the surface and question the true purpose behind the spectacle. Let's begin. Our culture is seriously hooked on celebrities, When Oscar season comes around every year, we've got a whopping 30 to 40 million people glued to their screens, eager to see which movies snag the top honors for their storytelling, craftsmanship, and artistic flair. Everyone calls it the Oscars, and yeah, there's a bit of an obsession with it. Landing one of those golden guys is pretty much your ticket to stardom. What's interesting about this is in the Egyptian culture, they had this small statue that was all about the god Ptah. And when an Egyptian king passed away, they believed his spirit would shoot up to the Orion constellation, turning him into a star. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? We're still into these symbols of excellence, just like they were. And Hollywood? Well, it's got its fair share of glitz with all these award shows popping up. The Grammys, the Emmys, you name it. They're all about celebrating different slices of the entertainment world. But deep down, they're pretty much the same deal. Just listen to how Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert talk about these awards. It's all part of the fascination we have with recognizing greatness. Good evening, godless sodomites. What are you doing? I'm bringing the truth, John. We're in Hollywood, the belly of the beast. You can't just read the prompter? I'm reading the prompter in here. It warps the minds of our children and weakens the resolve of our allies. We're here to honor achievement in that category. By giving you a golden idol to worship. Kneel before your God, Babylon! You see, Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart, they're totally clued into their place in this modern-day Babylon we call Hollywood. And here's something you might find interesting. Jim Carrey's on the same page. At a completely different award show, he was echoing the same kind of vibes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here tonight, as all of us are, to pay tribute to an American icon, an actor, a filmmaker, and truly one of my personal heroes, Mr. Clint Eastwood. I'm also here because the AFI is paying me $20 million and $3, making me the highest paid megalomaniacal boy king in all of Babylon. When Kathy Griffin accepted her Emmy Award, she made it crystal clear who her god is now.
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God.
That some of your worst nightmares were real.
I have a question. Has anyone here ever actually been to hell?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone?
Of course, yeah.
What's it like?
Well, hell's terrible, Jimmy. It really is. There's gluten everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
And, they have bowls of Advil instead of M&M's.
Yeah, and they have dial-up internet.
Awful.
Oh, no. Wow, that is terrible. But if it's so bad, why did you all go there?
Well, Jimmy, hell is where our agents make our deals with the devil.
Oh, that explains that.
Hell is where our agents make our deals with the devil.
For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?
I sold my soul to the devil. This is the first time I'm wearing a long dress, so soak it in, America. I sold my soul to the devil. A really weird mental state lately.
You've been in a weird mental state?
Yeah, I keep finding these bites all over my body.
What?
Like that one, and I don't know where they're coming from. So
You actually do have a bite there.
I spend most of my days wondering where these...
Well, have you been to a doctor? I mean, maybe you should get these checked.
No. I think it's a spiritual problem more than anything.
In what way is it a spiritual problem?
Well, I don't know. I feel like if it's not a physical thing, it's like a evil manifestation of spirits that are karmic related. I don't know. On behalf of Amy, I'd like to thank the devil and all the dark lords who
Don't do the devil stuff.
gave her this award,
The devil stuff.
allowed her to feast on the flesh of the innocent.
Thanks, everybody.
So did you sell your soul, and if so, how much did you sell it for?
I sold my soul for about $55.
Only 55? It wasn't even worth $100?
No.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. This came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
Have we sold our soul to the devil?
How else can you explain us being here on the devil? How did these two guys get on it?
And people laugh and clap. One more time.
We sold our soul to the devil. How else can you explain us being here on the devil?
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
The whole idea of celebrity and fame has become really convoluted and, kind of bastardized. Like, whereas fame used to be the byproduct of success, and now it's the ultimate goal. And if your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there. Like, sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil. Like, you're gonna end up on a one-way street, and it's going nowhere. Like, that's just the truth. I've seen so many people forsake their moral code and their value systems just for a little bit of fame, and it's not worth it at the end of the day. It's really not worth it.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role. I've got to look at this table and say thanks.
I'm very honored to be able to receive this amazing award from the depths of my soul, my passion.
And it's sounding a little bit strange, and I'm like, if you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer, I'm gonna.
Who wants to pray to the devil with me? Who's in with me? Come on, hey, let me see those horns. Dear Dark Lord Satan, hope everything's good with you. Ask you to grant tonight's nominees continued success in the music industry. How's that?
Hold on, let me explain something real quick. Before everybody starts screaming and saying, oh, like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers have entered the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all is going to hell. Right with me. So, let's get it.
And here's to hell. May we have as much fun there as we had getting there. Huh, Howard? And we'll be there.
Perceived at all. When I lived in Washington, I thought it was like a dumb conspiracy theory. Even though I worked in the kind of crypto entertainment business, I know a lot of people in the entertainment business, of course, because I worked in television, and I know a lot of people at the intel agencies and in politics, because that's what I did. And you would hear people once in a while say, well, they're all controlled. There are files on that person. And I was like, oh, you sound like a freaking wacko. What are you going to say, like fluoride in the water is bad? But that's actually true. It's true. And I'm not guessing that it's true. I know some of the people involved. There are a lot of people in the entertainment business, but in the cultural business more broadly, certainly in the news business, who are controlled by other forces. Like, obviously, how many of them look independent? How many of them look kind of shifty and afraid? You look at Jimmy Kimmel and I don't know what's going on there, but that guy clearly is nervous, super nervous. We have been trained to believe that our senses are somehow less valid than things that we read on Wikipedia, which is totally controlled by the CIA.
Destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood.
Times like these, during these difficult times,
in these troubled times,
challenging times,
trying times,
in these times of uncertainty.
And it isn't just corporations.
famous people,
Lots of famous people.
lots and lots of
flabbergasted.
famous people.
Saw. That's what you just saw.
That's what you just saw.
That's what you just saw.
That's what you just heard. That's what you just heard.
And that's what you just heard.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal? We do have people who submit pieces to American journals. Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks. This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session. Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI? Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the Great Conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations One World Government. Let me clarify the meaning of the expression, he is a liberal. The enemy, meaning the One World conspirators, have seized upon that word liberal as a cover-up for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. This satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest. And then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became too notorious, Weishaupt and his co-conspirators began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States. Perhaps the most vital directive in Weishaupt's plan was to obtain absolute control of the press, at that time the only mass communications media, to distribute information to the public, so that all news and information could be slanted.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth. And that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that is the truth. And that is the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
If you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States, because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly.
See, there are many things that motivate people, but there is none that is as powerful as fear. And nothing generates fear more than an overwhelming idea of a life-threatening crisis, even if that crisis isn't even real. But if you can create a crisis and get people to believe there's a crisis, you can get them to move quick.
Interesting how they all marched in perfect lockstep.
while chanting the same slogans.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset.
The great opportunity for reset.
Opportunity for us to reset.
For a reset.
It's almost as if they all attended the same school of thought and studied under the same professor.
Some people would say this revolution is characterized by the fight of robots against human beings. And we will win this fight.
Professor Klaus Schwab was born in 1938 in Ravensburg, Germany, where Nazi crimes against humanity were committed. His father, Eugene Wilhelm Schwab, was the managing director of Escher Weiss Ravensburg, a company that used slave labor to manufacture weapons of war for the Third Reich. While Klaus's father was at the helm, the Nazi Party awarded Escher Weiss Ravensburg the title of National Socialist Model Company. Years later, Klaus Schwab joined the board of directors at Escher Weiss Ravensburg, where he played a key role in the development of South Africa's nuclear weapons program during the darkest years of the racist apartheid regime. Today, Klaus Schwab is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum.
If you'd like to meet the people who are supposed to repair the state of the world, or give a piece of your mind to the bankers who helped get us into this mess, we can tell you where to find a lot of them. The World Economic Forum.
Founded in 1971, the World Economic Forum is an international private organization which receives billions of tax-free dollars from its members and their global enterprises. Every year, the WEF brings together its members with world leaders, big pharma executives, tech titans, Hollywood celebrities, media personalities, and internet influencers to meet in the secluded mountains of Davos, Switzerland.
It is a tiny town folded into the Swiss Alps, a village where you could bump into Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, the head of Google, and the Queen of Jordan, all in one place. A lot of reporters cover the forum, but few get inside. It turns out there are two Davoses, one you see and one you don't. After hours, there are hundreds of private parties where deals are done. People who can't be seen together in public can meet here.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, is particularly upfront and even proud of his ability to shape and influence world politics.
I created the community of global shapers as a means, as a force to shape our common future.
And of course, their Global Young Leaders program is a grooming ground so that when they ultimately infiltrate cabinets,
we penetrate the cabinets.
They will likely tend to govern a certain way.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
The names and the countries he mentioned ended up being some of the most dystopian and authoritative during this pandemic.
Names like Ms. Merkel, Vladimir Putin, and so on.
Other names? Jacinda Ardern, Sebastian Kurz, Mauricio Macri, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Ma, Gavin Newsom, Stéphane Bancel, Chelsea Clinton, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Leana Wen, Alexander and Jonathan Soros, George Soros' sons, and several of the Rothschilds. And of course...
Now who could represent such a world better than you, Prime Minister?
In 2014, Klaus Schwab called for the Great Reset.
We need a Great Reset,
which he positioned as the solution to the world's most urgent issues. The dark reality of Schwab's agenda is detailed in his best-selling book, COVID-19, The Great Reset. His endgame mission is to replace independent governance with a top-down controlled, one world government and a central bank-controlled digital currency.
Tell a story for so many years. Yeah. Before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down. And you're telling a story
about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them. And then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines and people became just meat zombies controlled by corporations. That'd be a demonic thing. If a demon tricked human beings, that demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head, like a vampire.
The microchips are already here. The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards.
With this kind of surveillance, I mean, you watch the big president, the big leader, gives a speech on television. The television could be monitoring you and knowing whether you're angry or not, just by analyzing the cues, the biological cues coming from your body. So, people are now watching us online, all over the world, this conversation. Now, maybe even right now, the people who are watching us are being watched and analyzed. And the thing is, it's not just you're now watching this. The thing is, we know that you're watching this, and we also know how you feel. Are you angry about what you hear? Are you frightened? Are you bored? This is the kind of power that Stalin didn't have. When Stalin gave a speech, everybody, of course, clapped their hand and smiled. Now, how do you know what they really think about Stalin? It's very difficult. But in 10 years, the future Stalins of the 21st century, they could be watching the minds, the brains of all the population all the time. And also, they will have the computing power to analyze all that. Now, you don't need human agents. You don't need human analyzers. You just have a lot of sensors and an AI which analyzes it, and that's it. You have the worst totalitarian regime in history.
The great conspiracy in the late 1700s was in Frankfurt, Germany, where the House of Rothschild had been established by Mayer Anschelm, who adopted the Rothschild name and linked together other international financiers who had literally sold their souls to the devil.
Shit that ain't true.
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 That ain't true. That's what you just heard.
BlackRock controls everything, right? Wrong, but we'll start there. Because if you go to the grocery store and try to buy something like shampoo or deodorant or baby food, turns out that basically every option is owned by mega corporations that are all owned by the same people. Top shareholders of all of these corporations are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, the big three. Doesn't matter how many different companies you look at in all of the different parts of our lives, top shareholders of every single one of these little stock sheets is Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. And sure, they're managing our money, like your retirement account, but what they're doing is they control the voting power on all those shares. I don't know if you can read this, but like index funds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, all the things that Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street use to get your money in their pockets, which is still yours, clearly. They control the voting rights. And so what that means is when you look at the board of directors of all these different companies, of every company in the market, their boards of directors were selected by the same three biggest shareholders, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. That board of directors determines who runs the company, determines how the company operates, determines whether to put poison in the food or food in the food, determines whether to tell you that there's asbestos in the baby powder or to cover it up for 30 years. And so all the different mega corporations that make all the things we use in our daily lives are all owned by the same big three financial institutions, along with their buddies, the big banks. But then when you look at all the big banks and financial institutions, you know who owns them? Each other. They all own each other. And what that means is there is a ruling class of bankers, of old banking families, of big money that collectively owns the financial institution blob. And they're controlling all of the mega corporations through the boards of directors who select the CEOs, et cetera, down the line. And those bankers and corporations have developed some pretty wild tricks in order to shuffle their money around, exert this control, buy off the government. Idaho right now, and I'm speed running a talk that I'm about to give tonight and tomorrow night at the Old State Saloon. We are about to break it all down for like 4 total hours plus some Q&A at the Old State Saloon in Eagle, Idaho. More on that at the end. So these bankers, these rich people, their families, a lot of that money is deeply tied into the black market systems of arms trades, drug trafficking, other kinds of trafficking. They launder all that money through things like art sales. The music industry is a big one that people don't talk about. Hollywood is full of money laundering because everybody needs a bank, including the criminal. So all that we're going to cover tonight in a 2-hour-long live talk that's going to be streaming on the internet through Old State Saloon's social media. That's essentially a speed run of my first 6 months of investigations into this whole thing. And we're going to go pretty deep. I am stoked. But tomorrow night, we're going to go deep on what the intelligence world is all about. What are spies really? See, they told you that these are spies, but actually these are more like what spies really look like. Because when you look at the history of who founded all this stuff, the kinds of people they were aligned with, the things they were doing, the types of backgrounds they had, the actions they took once they'd established these intelligence agencies, you realize that because the point of intelligence agencies is plausible deniability, most of the assets that intelligence agencies are working with are not actually card-carrying members of those intelligence agencies. And when you start to break down some known intelligence networks of the modern day, you start to realize just how powerful it is when you're leveraging outside assets like businessmen, like private citizens, private companies, because it hides what's really going on. See, we already had a military that was super strong. We didn't need a spy agency if all we wanted to do was exert force around the world. But when you want to do covert operations, secret programs that don't trace back to whichever government is behind them, you want private citizens that run their own businesses doing that work for you. You want people that can walk in the gray areas in various industries. People with a lot of power and money and influence, but who also can be controlled, either through loyalty or through blackmail or through whatever.
Now do you know who owns and controls our mass communications media? I'll tell you, practically all the movie lots in Hollywood is owned by the Leymans, Kuhn Loeb and Company, Goldman Sachs, and other internationalist bankers. All the national radio and TV channels in the nation are owned and controlled by those same internationalist bankers. The same is true of every chain of metropolitan newspapers and magazines, also of the press wire services, such as Associated Press, United Press International, etc. The supposed heads of all those media are merely the fronts for the internationalist bankers, who in turn compose the hierarchy of the CFR, today's Illuminati in America. Now can you understand why the Pentagon's press agent Sylvester so brazenly proclaimed that the government has the right to lie to the people? What he really meant was that our CFR-controlled government had the power to lie to and be believed by the brainwashed American people.
Constitutional crisis. Close to a constitutional crisis. Causing a constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis. In a constitutional crisis. 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 Constitutional crisis.
We have a constitutional crisis.
As a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis. This is the most serious constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis.
This is a constitutional crisis.
World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies the agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time, the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the Near, Middle, and Far East is designed to accomplish that satanic objective?
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Biggest company in the world? Yeah. $9.74 trillion in assets under management. MarketWatch estimated that there are only $40 trillion in circulation around the entire world. That means that BlackRock is in control of a quarter of the world's money right now. But wait, there's more. If you want to get caught up on what we've already learned, pause and read that shit, because it's wild. This is Larry. He started a really big company. Yes, he is at the World Economic Forum in this picture, you are correct. Now, let's talk about Aladdin. No, not the genie. We're talking about an artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. Aladdin is actually an acronym that stands for Asset Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network. And by some estimates, it manages over $21.6 trillion in assets. Yes, that's equivalent to half the money in the world. And how did this genie come to manage that much money, you might ask? Well, that's a great question. Back in 2008, when the entire global economy was about to collapse, guess who they called to fix the problem? That's right, they called this guy. He had his buddy, the artificial intelligence algorithm, take that $2 trillion that was printed to save the global economy, and Aladdin decided where it was allocated. Guess what? It all went to banks. The same banks that made the problem. Literally to the exact same people that made the problem. Bank has already replaced most of his traders with this algorithm. And over 70% of all US stock market trades are performed by algorithms now. There are count them, 3 BlackRock people on Joe Biden's cabinet in positions at the Treasury and the National Economic Council. So what's the big deal? He manages lots of money. He's probably a great guy. In fact, a huge amount of the money that his buddy Aladdin manages is actually our money. It's our pensions and our 401ks and a whole bunch of funds that we all buy into. And when we buy into those funds, we give up the voting rights to all the shares that they purchase with our money. What do voting rights do, you ask? Voting rights decide how companies work. They elect boards of directors, who elect CEOs. Voting rights control corporations. You wonder why they want voting rights? But wait, Ian, BlackRock is concerned with climate change. Isn't that a good thing? Larry Fink is here placing companies on watch for not being active enough in tackling climate change. They took several material actions against management, including siding with shareholders on their proposals, voting against board members, and raising governance concerns. That sounds great. Yeah, BlackRock sure is concerned with sounding great. But words are easy. Actions are a little more complicated. For example, who is driving the massive industrialized agricultural model that is destroying the global ecosystem? I might add that this is a far less controversial part of climate change than CO2 emissions, which the right and left don't agree on. This I think we agree is a problem. Large pesticide and fertilizer companies are extremely profitable. Net income of 8 of the largest pesticides and fertilizer companies are projected to double from US $19 billion in 2021 to $38 billion in 2022, resulting in more monocropping, human rights abuses, and environmental devastation. So who is the biggest shareholders of all of these gigantic agricultural companies that are destroying the planet's ecosystems? That's right, it's BlackRock and Vanguard. This guy, who is so concerned about the environment that he's sanctioning companies with his ESG scores, is also bigly involved in the agricultural destruction of our planet and taking over our food resources. Fink announced in January that the firm was suddenly changing its strategy. Sustainability would become BlackRock's new standard for investing. The firm defines sustainability as understanding and incorporating environmental, social, and governance factors, ESG scores, into investment analysis and decision making. Wonder what that means. You tell me, you think the guy that's controlling a quarter of the world's money supply has your best interest in mind when he owns all these companies, when they vote all these shares? Do you?
Number one, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. Number two, find desirable men who, for a price, would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all federal agencies. Number three, create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly between whites and blacks. Number four, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, but Christianity to be the chief target. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
It's the intelligent design of some god above the clouds. But our intelligent design, we are really upgrading humans into gods. We are requiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. We, throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years.
We are going to become gods. Period. If you don't like it, get off. You don't have to contribute. You don't have to participate.
Right. There are several things that Andrew said that I think are wrong. No, seriously, like deadly wrong. We would like AI to be a tool. That is what we want. But there's a mistake I think that AI research has been doing, which is we've taken human intelligence as the model for building artificial intelligence. And the reason it's a mistake is that the thing we really want from machines is not a new species, not a peer that could be smarter than us. What we actually want is something that will help us solve our problems. And the main thing we need from this is in pure intelligence, the ability to understand the world. But what we have as well is agency. In other words, we have our own goals. Andrew, are you aware that there are experiments that have been run over the last year that show very strong agency and self-preserving behavior in AI systems? These systems, let me finish, please. These systems are trying, for example, to copy themselves in the file of the next version when they know that there's going to be a next version that replaces them, or they're trying to fake agreeing with the user so that their goals will not be changed through the training process. These were not programmed. These are emerging for rational reasons because these systems are imitating us. We are agents. So indeed, we are on a path where we're going to build machines that are more than tools, that have their own agency and their own goals, and that is not good. And you're saying it's okay, we're going to find ways to control them. But how do you know? Like right now, science doesn't know how we can control machines that are even at our level of intelligence, and even worse if they're smarter than us. Nobody knows. Now, there are people like Andrew who are saying, don't worry, we'll figure it out.
Things like artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
And robots look at things like gene editing.
Exactly.
You know, opening a whole new horizon for medical science.
And you see, the difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
And offer certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications, and we have to be prepared for it.
So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species, and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. There is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually we are gaining the ability to hack human beings. Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans.
The human race is at a critical point.
Al final, de lo que se trata es de organizar una gran entidad o varias entidades supranacionales que sean las que dicten el nuevo orden de cosas, el nuevo orden mundial.
Have no doubt, you are living the most important moments of your life. Because you're going to be the protagonists of the most important moments in the history of humanity.
This is where we hold them. moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.